Hey guys, Phyrexian Grace here. Today I wanted to talk about my opinions now that I have tested the PTB a fair amount, a good chunk. I spent a good amount of time on the PTB on Tuesday. I spent a little bit of time on it on Wednesday and Thursday, and I'm going to be playing some more tonight, Friday, which is before me recording this. But I wanted to go over my thoughts and my impressions. I've played a good chunk of Survivor, a good chunk of Killer, both in public matches and in custom matches with friends and other creators. Um, the B-roll footage is just a couple public matches I did, one on the new Killer, and that should be playing now, and one on Dracula to give for the Dracula section. Because, ooh boy, do I have some things to say. But starting off, I wanted to talk about the new save PTB flow thing that they added this PTB, where everyone has access to anything they've bought, but any progress they've made in the game, they've bought through Steam specifically, anything they've bought through Steam, but anything they bought in game or on other systems or other platforms, they do not have access to. But you are provided, I think, 9,000 Oryx cells to be able to purchase anything you might need for that PTB. As someone who came from console and someone who purchases frequently through the in-game store, this caused me to spend a good chunk of time going through unlocking and leveling everyone. They also set it so that if you go to the blood web of a character, it will instantly set you to Prestige 3, and it gives you 99 of every single add-on. I think this is a good idea, but it came off feeling incredibly clunky for me, who wanted to test quite a few different characters that I had to rebuy essentially and re-level. Um, that I don't like this system. I'd rather they go back to the old one, or even better, just give everyone access to everyone at P3 or something like that, and go from there. Like I'm sure if they can do this, they can just make everyone P3 and have everyone unlocked for everyone. New killer. The Krasu. I found them to be a little bit clunky, but a lot of fun. Um, I really enjoyed the kind of stance change you have where you're going from your body form to your head form. Also, if I'm mispronouncing the name, I do apologize, but I'm pretty sure from talking to others that it is pronounced Krasu. But if I'm wrong on that, please correct me down below. But yeah, they have a very interesting gameplay loop, but they're held back by a lot of clunkiness. Um, Switching from head form to body form takes an incredibly long time, which kind of goes against the playstyle you want to have, where you're using the head as mobility, the body to infect, and then switching back to the head to actually do the chase. The problem with that is because the transform takes so long, it can, unless you pop it right on top of them, which if they're smart, they'll be constantly hovering resources and whatnot to be able to delay you infecting them as much as possible, which is what they should be doing as survivors, of course. And this just adds another hurdle for you to jump through, and it feels bad ultimately. Additionally, the ability for the headphone to vault the pallets, I think, should be removed and just replaced with the ability to break the pallets. It creates this just bad feeling against worst survivors who don't know how to counter it, which you can just vault right through them, and they don't have time to recover and charge their power and hit you with it in head form. So it just creates a bad feeling for that, and it creates a bad feeling for you as the Krasu, if you're playing against better survivors who know how to vault into it, because they're just going to vault into you over and over until either the window's blocked or the pallet is blocked. So I think just lowering the fatigue of being able to attack coming out of a window vault, just making it a little bit shorter to punish people trying to do that and not doing it like perfectly, and then just let them break the pallet. Don't let them vault it. We've also learned from Chucky, from Kaneki, that just being able to, at the press of a button, mitigate a pallet is not a good feeling. It doesn't go over well. So I do believe that this is just a better, healthy thing to remove. One more thing before moving on. I do believe that her perks are all fine in the state they are. They might be a little niche or a little underwhelming and could use some number tweaks. But other than that, I think they're in a good spot for where they are. Nothing oppressive, nothing terrible. They're interesting perks. which I do like to see more of. Interesting, usable perks, not interesting bad perks. Um, yeah. As far as this new survivor goes, I like her model. I think her lore is pretty cool, and I think her perks are interesting and good and impactful without being too oppressive. I know that there's a lot of concern about Ghost Notes reducing exhaustion and the scratch mark synergies that it has with like lightweight. I don't personally see them, if I'm being perfectly honest. I do think that I would rather see exhaustion perks dealt with as a whole than seeing Ghost Notes get nerfed because of that. Um, but obviously that's a down the line balance change. And to be honest, I think for the most part it's fine. It's a fine perk. Next up, the big meat and potatoes of this are the tunneling reduction update. Um, I do think that it's a good idea to provide these unique hook bonuses, and I do think that what they have given us are impactful. I do think that the aura reveal could be tweaked to be the same aura reveal that Springtrap has, or that survivors now get with their anti-tunnel measures, where it goes around undetectable. This is a crucial change, in my opinion, to add, because right now it feels incredibly bad to not see anyone and have to guess whether or not they are in a locker or if they are just within 40 meters. It doesn't feel great. So I think just making it so that you can see them no matter what, even if they hop a locker, even if they have like distortion. I think a perk to counter a base kit effect needs to at least be strong. Actually, I take that back. I think distortion still blocking it is fine, but I do think hopping into a locker is a problem. So I think even if they're in a locker, if the game can detect they're in a locker, instead of aura, it gives you killer instinct. So that also tells you that if people are using that mechanic. So just something like that, something to make it less of a feels bad for the killer, and maybe tone down the 40 meters a bit, maybe like 32 meters inside your terror radius if you're a normal killer, and you get a little bit more if you have a smaller terror radius. This is just to help on smaller maps like Midwich, where unless you're hooking in very specific hooks and they're in the exact other corner of the map, you're not getting much of a benefit from this. And if you are, they're usually just hopping a locker or just moving a little bit closer to stay hidden. So I do think that can be tweaked. But other than that, I think the bonuses given are fine. The anti-tunnel effects on Survivor, the haste, the endurance, the elusive, the collision, all of that, I think it's all great. I think it's all fantastic during the match. Once we hit endgame, I truly believe, and I have said this for a while, that anti-tunnel in general should just turn off. I know that they don't want like hook camping scenarios and endgame, but we have that anyways. I truly believe that with the new system, you could turn off anti-tunnel, or at least bring it back down to the haste and endurance at 10 seconds. And if it is that for some reason, and I'm mistaken on this, that's egg on my face. I'll admit, if that's the case, I am wrong, but I don't think I am. I've seen mixed reports about it. But other than that, I think the effects are great. I think the effects are fine. They do discourage tunneling, which is the effect of this, is they are trying to discourage or disincentivize it. Another thing that I think is completely fine in theory is the hook obfuscation, or the hook hiding that they're doing. I think that's a good mechanic that keeps you from kind of going off and coming back instantly with a higher mobility killer like Dracula, like Blight, like Kaneki, etc. Killers like that who have the ability to just teleport or quickly get back to hook and instantly punish the unhook. I do think a couple seconds, keyword couple, is perfect for that, because it allows you to make distance from the hook before they realize something's up. The problem is 10 seconds is too long with the resurgence existing. I think with resurgence, making it so that you don't know that they're even being unhooked and healed and have made distance before you even know something has happened, I think is a bit of a mistake. I think 3 to 4 seconds is the perfect amount of time. But other than that, I think this mechanic is a good mechanic for the game's health for both sides. Tunneling penalties. This is going to get me a lot of flack, I already know. I personally think that they are very close to having a good system here. I do think that extreme tunneling is a situation that you should be punished for doing at the end of the day. But I don't think it should be as punished as it is here, or it should not be punished as loosely as it is here. Let me rephrase. I think the the six hooks is too high of a requirement. That is requiring you to death hook 3 survivors before you can kill a single survivor, and also has a problem of making it so that you can no longer effectively punish efficient play. You have no way to gain pressure back. I'm phrasing that slightly off, and I don't love that. But essentially, it makes it so that you don't have the ability to gain pressure back because these effects last until endgame. So I think if they drop that number down to 4, which is either 2 death hook, so you've hooked 2 different people twice each, 1 person each once, so you've hooked all 4 people at least once, which also incentivizes you. You're clearly not tunneling if you're spreading hooks like that. You are spreading that pressure. Or at 2 gens left, they get turned off. This creates a system where if you are tunneling someone out of the game as fast as humanly possible, you are punished for that. You get penalized for choosing to do that. But people who are still trying to maintain pressure in a bad situation, that is, in my opinion, an acceptable use of tunneling, and many people's others as well, from what I've talked to people about. So if we have this system in place where we can punish extreme tunneling and still allow you to tunnel for pressure, that creates it so you're not punishing the wrong people. And that's what this current system does. Same thing with the blocked mechanic. Stable it at 2 gens. At that point, you are not extreme tunneling. You are in a situation where you are just trying to get pressure back. And you're being punished for it now. So I think that is an okay mechanic. Other than that, I think all of that is fine. The slugging reduction update, for the most part, they're really close on this. I truly think that most of the changes here are fine. The only one I truly take issue with is the moving and recovering at the same time. I think you should either do it much, much slower or not at all, and then increase the time needed to be able to pick yourself up from 90 seconds to 2 minutes, so 120 seconds. So 30 seconds longer. This creates a situation where if you are being extreme slugged, you can prevent that because that's half of your slug bar or all of your slug bar if you're just crawling nonstop, which might actually be okay to allow the crawling because you do bleed out twice as fast if you are moving around. So this will create a situation where the survivors have to strategically play while also being able to punish a very negative and bad feeling strategy on the survivor end. So I think that this is fine for the most part, but just needs a little bit of tweaking, and it's in a great spot. Hey, post-recording editing Grace here. I did want to address something that was posted while I was editing this video. Behavior has confirmed that they are going to be shelving the tunneling and slugging reduction systems and any perk changes associated with it to iterate on some adjustments based on our feedback. We will test these features again in an upcoming PTB and will release them live when we believe they are ready. This is huge for Behavior to not only communicate this before the PTB is even over, and to also say and confirm that they were willing and able to listen to us on this. So I did want to give credit to them in this video that this is the feedback I still think is appropriate. I think these are the changes you should make to make this a good system. But thank you so much from me for addressing this. Before we get to actual character changes, I wanted to go over the palette density quality of life, as they called it. There are a lot of dead zones in maps. On some maps, those dead zones feel like absolute garbage, and you feel bad on both sides. As a killer, I don't like losing because you made a wrong turn. Or I don't like winning because you made a wrong turn. I'm not losing if you made a wrong turn. It doesn't feel great to me. It feels a little cheap. I don't love it. I'd like a more interactive chase. I'd like to feel rewarded for a good back and forth and winning that back and forth. That's me personally. That might not be a popular opinion, but that's just me personally. But there are some of these maps where those dead zones are included to balance out the map. I do think that maps where this was fine, the Haddonfield changes, the Coldwind changes, and the Decimated Borgo changes were all fine. Backwater Swamp can keep it as well. And honestly, I liked the change to Disturbed Ward where they took an axe to the back half of the map and cut it down significantly. It just makes it feel a lot better. It makes it feel a lot more condensed, which might not be a popular opinion again, but it again just creates less space for the map for the survivors to create a dead zone for against themselves, or for the killer to dead zone for them to run off to and hide. It makes the map feel better, in my opinion, from my testing. There were also unlisted in the notes, so I did not include this in my PTB feedback forum post because I completely forgot about it, to be perfectly honest. There are maps that were listed that were not maps that were included in this change that were not listed. Sorry, I can talk. One of these being Dead Dog. A lot of maps got new tiles from other maps. So, like, Dead Dog now has a long wall, or no, a short wall pallet gym. And it also has the Red Forest weird, like, pallet gym with the window and the short wall pallet that you kind of chain. I don't remember the exact name, but it has new tiles. A bunch of the maps that were affected by the pallet density got new tiles, and for the most part, it feels fine. It adds a little bit more variance. I just wish that it had been listed in the patch notes. Next up, I wanted to go over the survivor perks just really quick and the killer perks. For the most part, I think these were fine. For survivor, I think the only two I would want to see reverted were Plot Twist and Borrowed Time. Borrowed Time being made completely base kit twice and then getting buffed feels like a massive slap in the face. You can now have a 42-second haste, endurance, and elusive effect, which just feels incredibly bad on the killer end. Even the 30 seconds is already long enough to discredit that. So I would honestly almost like to see Borrowed Time reworked, if not reverted at the very least. And Plot Twist getting a 25% recovery rate buff, I feel, is just kind of bad. Plot Twist is already an incredibly good perk for maintaining pressure on the killer and giving you a lot of agency as a survivor, allowing you to heal yourself once or twice a match, depending on if you make it to endgame. I think Plot Twist was in the fine state that it already was, and the 25% buff just heightened it. As far as killer perks, for the most part, a good chunk of them are fine. I think Dead Man Switch could be brought up to 40 seconds from 35. I do agree that the 50 seconds was a little too long, but the 35 seconds is just a little too short. So bringing that up to 40 seconds would make it feel a lot better. Eruption just needs to be reverted. It's a terrible perk now. And it wasn't an amazing perk. It was just a popular perk. I understand why they did it, because they made Gen Kick's strength better with the anti-tunneling measures. But I do think that Eruption being affected is just a massive feels bad. Monitor and Abuse can be reverted. All it did was nerf its synergy with lower tier killers and buff its synergy with the higher end of killers. It was completely fine in the state it was, and I just feel like this change came out of left field and can just be reverted. Pop Goes the Weasel. I personally think that Pop feels fine with the changes, because for the most part, if you're playing with the unique hook effect, this is actually stronger than Pop was before. And I truly think that Pop is just fine on its own. Don't run Pop if you're not going to take advantage of the unique hooks. that there were a lot of changes to uh, gen regression perks and gen slowdown perks in general. I think this change to pop was fine. Um, and then pain res, one of two things needs to happen. This either needs to be reverted to the 20%, or it needs to go back to where it was just every Scourge Hook if it's going to stay at 12%. The middle ground is just incredibly frustrating, and it makes it feel not really worth the play, especially given I'd rather see them return to the 20% than every hook, because that 20% for each unique person hooked was incentivizing not tunneling. It gave an incentive to not do it because you would get an extra 20%. So I do think that pain res can just be reverted and it would be fine. And I do believe, yes, that is all the changes to perks that I had an issue with. Yes, okay. Moving on. I want to quickly go over the two killers that I was able to quickly test. I did test the Ghoul. Kidnap Tech is gone. That's all I really got to say. The changes were perfect. Keep them. Dark Lord. Starting off with his base kit. The Hellfire cooldown, the small buff is nice, but I would like to see that brought down to 9 or even 8 seconds, preferably 8. The 9.5, you barely notice a difference, especially with how Dracula's gameplay loop kind of works, where you're going to be going in and out of forms a lot. You use Hellfire, you switch to Wolf form. You use Pounce, you switch to Vampire form. That cooldown change, you're not going to notice it at all in the first place. So just bump it up a little bit more to make people who are just playing in Vampire form, well, that's not the optimal play. It gives them that creative liberty while also potentially helping out the higher end to make Hellfire feel a little bit better. Hellfire Pillar, the extra Hellfire Pillar they added, this is something I've been asking for since he launched. One more pillar makes his skill expression with Hellfire so much higher, and I could not be happier. The one downside is this does make sunglasses a little bit useless. I was in a small camp of people who believed that sunglasses was a good add-on, contrary to a lot of what uh, contrary to what a lot of Dracula mains were saying. So this change is really good. It does make sunglasses feel a lot worse now. So I do believe that that could be reworked, because now you're essentially taking the downside for nothing, because the time for 9 pillars to come out is too long to warrant running it. The Hellfire hold speed, 3.86 was always too fast of a movement speed for it, so bringing it down to 3.68 was my proposed pitch for them if they ever did bring it down. So I'm happy that that got heard and taken care of. The Hellfire cast slowdown, you barely notice it. It makes it a little bit less strong on Hellfire, which, to be fair, you did give Hellfire a very sizable buff with the extra pillar. So I believe that this is fine. It does make him feel a little bit more clunky, but it doesn't affect his strength at all, and it's not clunky enough to warrant reverting it if necessary. The wolf changes, both of the changes are fine. The one downside is the wolf pounce charge time is bugged in the PTB. It is 1 second, not 0.9. And I feel that this could be fixed, and this wolf will feel fine. Wolf will be in probably the healthiest spot it's been in total in its existence. And the bat friction is a welcome change. It's going to make newer players find him easier. It's going to make existing players who already enjoy him easier. But before I move on to add-ons, I do want a quick time to voice a grievance. Dracula is in an incredibly buggy state right now. He stutters on shapeshift. His second pounce randomly cancels. I can go on and on and on. His vault animations and carry idle animations are bugged and don't happen. And it just feels like his bugs are taking a long time to get addressed, and we're balancing them before they're fixed. It feels a little bad. Even in the PTB, Wolf's Pounce Collision is bugged, and you can slide off of survivors and off of surfaces without doing the hug tech. So it's not beneficial for it to happen at all. It's always a downside, and it happens a lot. So hopefully that gets fixed before launch. Going over his add-ons. Ruby Circlet wasn't even made fully base kit and got nerfed. And it feels really bad now. You now only get 9.02 seconds when before you got 9 with it. So it's not a huge issue, but I don't know why we nerfed it, to be perfectly honest. Taking 10% of 9 would be 0.9, so bringing you down to just 8.1, even if it were at 9 seconds, would be completely fine. It brought you down 0.375, if I remember right. at 9.5. Or no, it would have brought you down more. The math works out for it to be completely fine. I'm really tired. Sorry, guys. Um, the clock tower gear nerf. This nerf absolutely cannot go through. This brings the numerical value for clock tower gears down to 0.175 from 0.35. No one's going to run an add-on that makes you get your shapeshift back 0.175 seconds faster. In the time it takes me to say the words 0.175, 0.175 seconds have happened multiple times. This add-on is now probably his worst add-on. You should never bring it if this goes live, and that's why it should be reverted. Same thing with Traveler's Hat. Traveler's Hat was a feels good add-on. It was a popular add-on. It was not a strong add-on. It was one of his better add-ons, but that was because it was a feels good add-on that was always useful. It was never a bad add-on to bring. So this change just should not go live. The Moonstone Necklace change is fine. The Bloodfood Goblet buff is good. And I welcome it, even though I didn't really see it coming. The White Wolf Medallion change. Rework this thing. Don't revert this change because it's a buff, but the buff does nothing. Going from 0.8 seconds to 1 second adds 0 extra killer instinct pulses from my testing, which is something that I can numerically prove too. You need to add another 0.367 seconds of the pulse for it to even add, of the killer instinct to even add another pulse. This add-on is terrible to begin with. It just needs to be reworked. Killer Doll and Force of Echo I'm going to cover because I have the same thing to say about both of them. The nerf is fine. It keeps them strong. It keeps them usable while also bringing down their oppressiveness. So I think that these are fine. The Medusa's hair nerf, at this point, they've nerfed it 3 times. Rework it. It's now to a point that it barely does what its niche even fills. So I feel that this add-on, just at this point, rework it. The Warg's Note, the buff is nice, making a good add-on even better. The Lapis Lazuli nerf, even with the clock, or especially with the clock tower gear nerf, this makes it so that the window block is just 1 loop long. If you get 1 loop out of this and then it's gone, and that's a feels bad. It's not even worth bringing anymore. I think buff it up to 10 seconds. That'll give you just enough wiggle room that you can use it and keep it in check, because 15 is a little bit long. And the Ring of Vlad buff, removing the downside makes it fine, but truthfully, this add-on should just be reworked. For newer players, it is incredibly clunky to use. It can pull into walls based on survivor positioning. It can track based on walls. So it's a feels bad add-on. That does have some fun interactions once you get good with it, but it teaches you to use Hellfire wrong for the most part. So I do believe that this add-on should just be reworked, but until it's reworked, I will take the buff. And I do believe that that is everything. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, behavior especially, thank you for listening on the anti-tunnel and slugging, taking those, shelving them for a bit to tweak them, and then bringing them back to us in a PTB where we are not also testing a new survivor and killer perks. That is a wonderful thing to announce as early as you did. That's wonderful communication. Keep it up. If you guys have any thoughts, concerns, comments that you want to leave them down in the comments below. Tell me what you think of this. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, do all of the interaction things so I get noticed by the algorithm. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.